So this week, what we covered was reversals in the real world. And for those that don't know, reversals are essentially when a person asks you a question that it is not in your best interest to answer, or you don't have enough information to answer. And it's how do you go about not answering that question, but in such a way that they don't feel like you're being deceptive.
Yeah, you want to keep the conversation moving forward. Now, if they stop feeling heard and understood, or you're being evasive or dismissive, it's game over. So there's an art in how you receive and process and respond to a question that, as you said, you either don't want to answer at all or yet, you want more context, or you don't really understand what they mean or why they're asking it or where this question's coming from or where this is going. You know, if you just sort of jump in willy-nilly, yeah, of course, sometimes you'll get it right, but you could absolutely put your foot in it. Whereas if you follow the methodology that we talk about on this call, you're going to clarify first what the hell they mean by what they're saying, and you'll get context wrapped around it as well, like where is this coming from, why are you asking this, what are you hoping for, what's the real question behind this. Then, once you've taken that as far as you need to, you're able to assess the situation from a position of knowing and then decide on your next step, rather than assuming or hoping or I think that, and that can be really, really dangerous. I like dangerous situations on sales calls, and I know you don't either. So we talk about that and more, because we bring it into real life as well, not just sales calls, on this call. So I hope you all enjoy it.
And the one thing that we did on this call that we haven't done on many others is we did a couple of role plays, and the main focus of those was to deliver it in such a way that it doesn't seem well scripted, it doesn't seem well versed, it doesn't trigger the prospect to have them feel as though they're speaking to a politician. And we even did give a political example. But this was a good one, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. So I look forward to the feedback from the viewers. And we'll see you next week, James.
What if we do reversals in the real world? As in, if someone hops on a call and sets the direction, this is exactly what we're going to do, this is what it's going to look like.
Sure.
How do we go about turning that around?
Sure.
So I've actually got an example of that, and I think I told you about this.
Yep.
So I hopped on a call with a potential partner or a company that we were considering partnering with. And we hopped on the call, and I think I told you this. They said, oh, well, was James doing a little bit of admin or something like that? So he's going to hop on the call, and he's going to tell us this, and he's going to tell us this, and he's going to tell us this. And
that was their perception of what the call was going to be?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I just said, look, I appreciate that, and thanks for the kind intro, but what we're actually going to do on the call first is you're going to take me through your intentions, where you see this going, what it looks like, and then on the back of that, we can have some conversations about, where we fit together, if we fit together, and then the logical next steps that come past that. But I'll hand it back across to you. It was non-confrontational. There was no kind of conflict, but there was a moment of you accept it. I appreciate that. Give them a little ego stroke. But what we're actually going to do, and I'm more than happy to do that as soon as. And I think everybody thinks that it's going to be really confrontational when you do a reversal, or you don't go along with exactly what someone says. But what if we get into the nuances of what it's actually like to do that?
Well, firstly, I would consider that a reframe or a resetting of the table rather than a reversal. A reversal, we probably should make some definitions, I guess, for those that are unfamiliar with it. A reversal to me is when a question comes your way, and rather than answer the question, you seek to clarify or understand what they mean, what context leads them to ask that, what their intent is with their question, everything wrapped around it. So if you were to say to me, Michael, what time did you get up today? That was your question. Non-reversing would be, James, I got up at 5 a.m. this morning. I would just answer the question. But if I were to stop you and say, Michael, when you got asked by James what time you got up this morning, do you know why he asked you that? I couldn't say yes to that question. No, I don't. Do you know what he was hoping you would say, or what he was fearing you would say? No, I have no idea. So really, I was just hoping for the best by answering with the truth. But I could have exposed myself in the sense that you might have said, damn, I was hoping to say 4:30, because if it had been 4:30, I would have given you $1 million. to make a really silly example. I'm like, damn, wish I'd have known
A
that.
realistic example is
Wish
when
I'd have
someone
known that
says,
before I
"Hey,
answered the question. Wish I'd have known that before I answered the question.
what are you doing Saturday morning?" And you say, "Oh, nothing much. Why is that? Great. Can you drive me out to so and so to pick something up? It's only about a 3-hour drive each way."
Right. So let's role play. Okay. So there you go. So and after I've said no, I'm doing nothing, I'm already like, damn, why did I answer? Honestly, it's awkward because I feel like I have to say yes to this thing I do not want to do. So you're basically playing Russian roulette with your answers. You're hoping for the best, and sometimes it'll land, and sometimes it'll be a disaster. So ask me the same question, and I'll reverse it to you, which means I won't answer your question. I will seek to clarify and understand what you mean with your question, why you're asking it, any other context wrapped around it. That means that when I decide to answer the question, if I even do, I will answer it from a knowing position, not from a hoping or an assuming or I think you mean type position, which is very, very dangerous.
Yep.
So ask me the same question and I'll reverse it for you.
Michael, what are you up to on Saturday morning?
Saturday morning? You mean this Saturday morning, James?
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. Let me check my diary. Have you got something in mind while I'm looking through my diary?
Oh, yeah. I need your help to go out and pick something up. Not too far away.
Oh, okay. Couple minutes, couple hours. I'm still looking for my diary, James. What have you got in mind? What are you seeing for Saturday?
Just got to go pick something up from 𝗏𝗏. It's only a few hours away.
Oh, right. So like 3-4 hours sort of trip, round trip.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. No worries. Just getting my diary now. Do you really need me, or is there someone else that can help you with that, or is it like me or Death? Like what's going on there, James?
It's great to have a road trip together, but it's not you or Death.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, here's my diary. Yeah, look, I'm actually booked out all Saturday morning, so I have to say no. So I'm really sorry. Is there some other way I can help you, James?
Yeah, no, that was it. All good.
Okay, no, you can figure it out yourself. You're going to be okay, or can I help you in some other way?
Yeah.
Yes, he's not going on a road trip for 4 hours.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you handle it different? Like, do you want me to do it to you just to see if you handle it a little different? Any tweaks?
Oh, we don't have to do the same one. But again, another real life one was on a similar meeting. There was someone it was not a command, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
Well, you need to map out exactly what you're going to do with this kind of process. Well, you need to map out exactly what you guys have planned for here.
Yep.
And I just said, yeah, I'm happy to do that. Can I ask, what were you hoping that it'd look like?
Yes. See, that's reversing. The first one you did was a reframe at the start. This is reversing now because you haven't answered his question or you haven't accepted his premise. You're simply coming back with a question of your own with the objective of clarifying and understanding and extracting as much information that's relevant. Then when you feel you've got a grasp of what's in play, then you can choose your next move, which is to either answer the question, ignore it, maybe it's already answered itself, or maybe you give them a funny look. I mean, you're in control now.
So how it actually played out is when I asked that question, it was just, I don't know. Okay, well, have you seen anything or had any examples of one that you did like in the past?
Yep.
Well, and then someone else chimed in. Yeah, actually, I saw this here. Great. Can you share the screen and show me?
Yeah.
No worries. Can you send that across to me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, is there anything else, any other questions, anything else that you guys needed?
Yeah.
And I didn't answer the question at all. I had the template or the structure or what success looked like to them.
Yep.
And we moved on to the next question. And I just kept doing this.
That's the thing with a combination of reversing and a questions-based approach to your communication. You often don't have to actually answer the question. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean the question isn't resolved, but it might not be you actually answering it. And we can do an example of that if someone wants to see it. But by the way, this is all unscripted. I didn't even know we were going to talk about reversing, let alone these little role plays. But that's the beauty of this method. You often don't have to answer the question because it takes care of itself or goes away, or you can structure your responses in a way that they actually answer the question. And that's very powerful. And it gives you so much control.
But you also aren't assuming that you know exactly what they're thinking, because I think most people say something and they don't have a clear example or a clear understanding. So even if I were to say, oh yeah, this is what we're doing.
Yep.
Well, that's not what we asked for.
Yeah.
Okay. And you create all of these extra layers of work that are unnecessary.
Yeah. No, it's the opposite of assuming. It's literally the opposite of assuming. It's this comes from the Socratic method, from Socrates. And Socrates is famous for saying, "I know nothing." And because he knows nothing, he asks the questions. This is very much drawing from him and that. So it's the opposite of assuming, because I'm simply asking questions and not necessarily committing to a position, because I seek to clarify and understand before I commit to a position. If for example, let's say that we agreed that you were going to pick me up at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's now 10:08, and like we needed to be punctual for what we were doing, and you arrive 10:08, I'm like pissed off, and you pull up and I just bark at you, "James, you're bloody late, you're never on time." I just unload on you. We're probably not in a good place on the back of that. And 2 seconds later, you're like, "Michael, I'm late because there was a dead dog on the road. I picked it up and saved it. That's why now I feel terrible. I just completely jumped the gun and I'm kind of backtracking." And, contrast that with you turn up 10:08, you're late. Yes, I'm peed off. But I'm like, "James, firstly, is everything okay?" I seek to clarify first. "Michael, you wouldn't believe it. Had the worst morning. The good news is I saved a dog about to die." I'm like, "Oh my God, what happened?" You tell me the story. I never get angry at you. I get into the car and it's actually good energy. I'm like, "I'm so glad you saved that dog." Like, that's a sign we're going to have a good day, James. Like, see the difference. One of them, I put my foot in it. There's bad energy, misunderstanding. I've now got to backtrack. We're in a bad place. The other one, I held my nerve. I seek to clarify and understand first. The answer that came gave me the full picture. I then completely reassessed my position. I'm no longer angry at James. James is actually the hero here. I'm thankful to have a guy like this in my life, and things are good. Like, apply that. There are so many situations in real life every day that you do a version of that, and on a sales call, too many to count.
I think there's also the external focus, and then there's the internal focus.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a massive amount of self-awareness. So if something triggers you, if something sets you off, and the first thing I'll say is that the world is not responsible for what triggers you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the question is, if you feel a certain way or someone says something, instead of reacting, "I'm angry because they,"
Mm-hmm.
or "I'm upset," or "I'm sad because they,"
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of peel it back a layer and think, why did what just happened in me?
Mm-hmm.
Or if someone snaps at you, someone gets angry at you, instead of snapping back, it's just, what just happened that made you react that way?
Yep. Yeah.
And then you're not fighting back. You're not aggravating the situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're shining a light on what's actually going on.
Mm-hmm.
So internally within yourself, or externally when you're interacting with others, having that question-based approach. And it starts in sales calls, but it seeps to every single part of your life.
Yep.
And even with reversals, personal life, work life, it's so applicable.
We use reversals all the time. Even simple ones like, "What do you mean?" Or, "When you say that, what exactly are you saying?" Just little things like that's clarifying. Because I can take it one way, but I recognize that might not be the way you intend it to be. So before I take it the way I think you mean it, I want to clarify if that's actually what you mean, because my response will change dramatically depending on what you actually mean.
I have to add a caveat here.
Yes.
We all have those "what do you mean" people in our life that respond, "What do you mean?" before you even finish the sentence.
Sure.
Don't respond it to everything. You've got to have that little bit of what could they possibly mean?
Yeah.
Before you respond.
Yeah, of course. If that's your default response, like kind of all the time, it's going to get damn frustrating for everyone around you, and bad things are going to come from that. It should be more often than not real. There are some times where I'm like, I do know what you mean, but I want you to actually confirm that, and I want you to kind of own the words you're saying, because they're quite heavy. So it's not that I don't understand you, it's that I intentionally want you to replay that through your mind, because you might realize you're being very inappropriate right now. So there can be other motives for why you do it. But yeah, you don't want to be the guy that, like, it's kind of become the fashion in the last few years from Chris Voss. Would it be, what's that negative question everyone always asks? Everyone asks the same no question. I've forgotten it because I block it out. Would it be a bad idea to? Like, that's been so played out. Don't ask that question. That's so played out. Don't also throw "what do you mean" after every sentence. It's going to get really irritating really, really quickly. The key with reversing as well is to not use the same reverse all the time. you know, so there's so many different techniques you can use for reversing. Instead of saying, what do you mean? You know, you could say, the main reason you say that, or what did you want me to do on the back of that? You know, there's so many things you could say, or you could mirror them. You know, say the last word, come late. You know, there's so many different techniques you could use. You don't want to use the same technique over and over and over. That's one of the reasons I don't use why on sales calls, or very, very minimalist approach to using the word why. There are so many different ways you can ask why-based questions without using the word why, because why, we're tuned into that word. We know we're being questioned, and if you're just hearing why all the time on sales calls, you know, you can become very aware of the sales process. You can be very aware that you're being, you know, processed, or there's a checklist against your name, or you're being qualified.
Interrogation.
Interrogation's a good word. Yeah, absolutely. So I really look to minimize the word why, and it's very easy to do.
It's very easy to do.
And it means that more often than
because
main reason being, could you give me an example of that, or like how did that come to be? There's so many different ways you can do it. People don't realize you're questioning them, and you could literally have a conversation where your only responses are questions for like 20 minutes straight, and when it's done well, the other person doesn't even realize it, and you've got so much information from them and such a clear understanding of what's going on and what's possible.
If we get systematic about classic James, if we get systematic about reversals, so you have the little ego stroke, good question, and then after that you have an acknowledgement, more than happy to answer that, and then you have the transmission, but quickly before I do that, and then you have the question. So it's the ego stroke, the acknowledgement, the transition, and then your own question.
And the reason you do that is you don't want to trigger fight or flight by having them feel that you're evading the question. So when you do that, it's the antithesis of triggering fight or flight. Like, I just asked this guy, James, a question and he won't answer it. Like, I don't like this guy, James. Like, James, what's the weather like today? And you get all politician-like and answer a different question, or just pretend I didn't ask you. You annoy me. You trigger fight or flight. Like, I either don't want to be in this interaction with you anymore, flight, which means I shut down or literally leave, or fight. I'm like, hey, James, are you going to be this disrespectful the whole call? Because I'm not really enjoying this. We're in a bad place. When you do what you said, those steps, it's the antithesis of that. I feel heard, understood. I understand that you're going to, you know, offer me what I asked for. You just want to hear something first, and what you're asking for first is relevant. It's fair.
So if we were to compare it to a politician's answer, they acknowledge and then answer a completely different question.
Yeah.
So they don't actually ask a question. They acknowledge, and then, so James, how's the weather? Well, that's a good question, and you know, where I live is a tropical paradise, and the most important thing about a tropical paradise is the roads have to be clear, that the streets need to be safe, and you know, everyone needs to know that they're in the best place, and that's why I'm committed to.
That's right.
So that's a vastly different approach, and that one is the slimy politician effect that people get.
Yeah. 100%. We don't do that. You know, we don't do that at all. So, you know, if I were to say to you, James, just to bring to life that example, that framework that you laid out a moment ago, if I were to say to you, James, are you selling at the moment? You on any accounts at the moment yourself? I know you've got your AI program, and I know you've got your new business, but are you still actually doing high ticket sales? Are you still selling yourself, James? If I ask you that question, how applying the framework, what would a response look like from your end?
Depends. Are we going the politician or the reversal?
No, reversal for the salespeople out there. You know, you obviously don't know why I'm asking you this question. You don't know what my intent is with this question. I would imagine you'd like to know that before you commit to a position. So how would you, using the framework that you laid out before, how would you respond to that? James, are you selling yourself at the moment?
I'd just say, yeah, good question. And you know, I do always like to be on a couple of different accounts, but what's the main reason you asked that?
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm actually looking for a sales guy, and I was actually hoping to offer it to you if you're even available. And I guess I wanted to check your availability first.
Yeah. Well, what kind of account have you got at the moment? What does that look like?
Yeah. So you're now asking me questions.
Yeah.
I still don't know if you're selling right now. You actually haven't answered the question yet.
But funny. So as soon as you ask that, nothing is polished. I go into that. What? Wow. You know, what kind of account?
For the viewers, there was no notice given to James for this. I didn't even know what today. Do you want to ask me the same question, and I'll show you how I would do it as a means of contrast?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Are you selling on any accounts at the moment?
Yeah, good question. You mean like in general or today? Like you're looking at sort of my daily sort of movements, or am I committed to anyone or anyone coming up? Like, what do you mean exactly by that? And then I'll talk to your criteria.
That's such a Michael answer as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 different options, and then put it back to them.
Yeah, I love doing that. It hides the question, and it really gives a big scope of what we can talk about.
Yeah.
So I love asking a question which kind of has like 4 or 5 questions in it at once, but then there's like a meta question to bring it all home.
Mm.
I find that it opens them up almost 100% of the time.
Mm.
And it just feels very conversational and non-scripted, because it isn't scripted. I don't have a script on my sales calls. There's a reason this show is called Unscripted. And it sort of creates parameters. It often prompts thoughts and ideas. Oh, well, all of them are interesting, but what I really meant was like, do you have availability in your calendar for a new account, Michael? The real question.
What can you tell me about that account?
That's a good question. I guess it would depend on what sort of account it is. Are we talking about an account that you have or you know of? What are your thoughts there, James? See, I'm getting everything from you. I still haven't told you if I'm working or not. Very powerful.
It is.
Very powerful. And a lot of fun. And I mean, you can give waitresses and cashiers and baristas a hell of a time, playing around with reversals, and things like that. I've told the story before of when I got the flight upgrade. When I met Chris Voss, I went to Nashville in May this year to an event that Chris Voss was a keynote speaker at, and my flight got delayed I missed my flight. I missed my connecting flight. And I ended up getting on the next one, and that wasn't the start point at all. That was not the start point, but that's another story. But anyway, the closing line with the lady that got me on the next flight was she gave me a $30 food and beverage voucher for my inconvenience. And we had a good rapport, and I had to use all of my skills to get this upgrade, and I mean all of them. And I got it. And for my inconvenience for missing a flight, which was their fault, not mine, but that's another story, she gave me a $30 food and beverage voucher. And as she gave, which I didn't ask for, and she said, you can use that for any drinks or any food while you're waiting for your next flight, just no alcohol. And she said it seriously. And I said, no alcohol? Are you meaning to say that I'm an alcoholic? And she looked at me for about 3 seconds, and then I laughed to break the uncomfortable silence. And we were both dying of laughter. It was a very funny moment. And we left on such a high. She had a huge smile on her face. I even looked back.
The kind of interactions that a person like that would normally have, people screaming, yelling at them. And then you've got someone that comes in that's polite, funny, can have a conversation, and genuinely asks for your help as opposed to demands it.
Yes.
That's going to be the highlight of the day.
So it becomes a superpower. When you're able to do that well, it becomes a superpower that not only can you use to your advantage on a sales call to protect your position by not disclosing things that could get you in trouble or wouldn't serve the call, but also advance your position because you extract really useful, powerful information from the other person. So not only does it serve you on a sales call, which means more sales and better quality conversations, it also serves you in real life. You can use all of this in real life for fun and to extract key information which can serve your interests. How and why could you not want to do that?
So there's one question. It's not often I come across someone that's irate or overly upset, because most of the time I'm very calm in my communication and I can reduce it. But I have a friend, the industry that he was in, he had a lot of people that were quite upset pretty consistently, and they would be screaming at him. And the question he would ask is this how you usually conduct yourself? And 95% of the time, it was a mirror held up and they realized like, whoa, I'm sorry, that's not what I do. Now, 5% of the time, I would say it's how the person usually conducted themselves, and they would kick off. But a 95 to 5% split is pretty good.
Yeah, that's a very powerful technique. And there's so many layers you could add to that as well. To make it even hit harder. You can have a lot of fun with it. Like in that same scenario, instead of saying, is this usually how you conduct yourself? You could say that. You could absolutely say that, and that would work. But you could also add another couple of layers to it. You could say something like, hey, can I ask before we continue, is the rest of the call going to be like the first minute, or was that an outlier? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, is it usually how you conduct yourself and therefore the rest of the call will be the same? Or was that just my lucky day and I got that first minute for free? I mean, what should I expect for the rest of the call? It's been pretty cheeky, but I like being cheeky. And one of two things will happen. They'll either break character, they're like, I have been being inappropriate, or they'll double down. And then you can assess if you even want to be in this call with this person.
That's fun. That's a funny
You can
one.
have much fun with it. If your personality is a little bit cheeky and adventurous, which ours is, and you have this toolkit, you can have so much fun with it.
But I think it's because we both know that even if it does go a little bit sour, we can get out of that position anyway.
You can get out of it.
Yeah.
You can get out of it. There are ways to get out of it, which is another conversation. There are absolutely ways to get yourself out of a hole. I mean, obviously try and avoid getting in the hole in the first place, but we sometimes end up there. There are ways to get out of it.
But it makes you a lot more comfortable to walk that fine line.
Well, firstly, you now have the skill set to probably not get in the hole in the first place. And you also have the confidence that if you do, you can probably get out of it. So because you're no longer fearing the downside, going to the hole, you are then able to focus entirely on chasing the upside. Like, let's make this a fun, productive conversation because I don't fear the downside. Because I probably won't go there. And if I do, I'll be able to get out of it. So what a way to have sales calls and what a way to live by extension.
100% agree. 100%. I think that is a good spot to wrap up. I think this is an enjoyable one and a lot of good tips. So I will see you next week.
You know, we did a few role plays on that one. I don't know that we've done role plays before. I'd be keen for the viewers in the comments to share their thoughts, like more role plays, less role plays, like them, don't like them, because we can do more if the people like them, or we can do less if they don't. So, share your feedback in the comments. More role plays, less role plays. What did you like? What didn't you like? And we'll take it on board.
Sounds good.
Thanks, James. See you soon.